Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to do a fireside chat, and I am tickled pink to have Robert Moir in the house. Hi, Robert. How are you today?
Hi, Jerry. It's good to be here.
All right. So, in this fireside chat, we hope to provide you, the audience, an understanding of why we have done what we've done when we did it in the way that we did it in. And so, I'm going to start with us like a series of questions to Robert. I want to take us all the way back to the token generation event. Why was there no roadmap in that publication, and subsequently no roadmap has been issued? In other words, a roadmap was left out.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, part of a general strategy of ours to avoid fixed roadmaps, and there are a number of reasons why we like to do it that way. Generally speaking, it allows us to stay flexible. So, and the reasons for that are sort of manifold. So, like, the part of the reason is what HyperCycle is building is a very different kind of like infrastructure and like decentralized network for AI to AI communication and transactions. And it's a very multi-layered and complex, technology stack that we need to build to bring that into reality. And so we're in the process of bringing that into being, and it's a extended process because it's a complicated thing in the midst of a rapidly evolving market in the context of AI technologies in general and agentic AI in particular, as we've seen grow dramatically in 2025. So the ability to not have a fixed roadmap now allows us to sort of unfold the development of the technology in the best possible way as things are unfolding in the world around us. So in terms of other technologies that are available, the sort of market demands and needs shifting and changing, and from a sort of deeper perspective, from a design perspective, what this enables us to do is, as we're making design decisions, how to architect various aspects of this in the process of its development. The longer we can delay making decisions, the more information we have to make the best decision when we have to make a decision. And ideally, you get to the point where you've already determined what the optimal choice is, everything else considered, by the time you actually have to take the decision. So this is part of a broader strategy, as you see, to allow us to really build the best possible version of the technology that we can as the the world shifts and changes around us.
Well, it's very reminiscent for me of like when I was doing construction, each build was different based off of the weather and climate in that area, the kind of grade that I was dealing with. No two things were the same. And so what you're always constantly doing is you're building towards a direction or for me, in my case, it was built towards a final product. But there would be a lot of decisions that were made that I necessarily couldn't have thought of ahead of time just because I wasn't there. I had not built on that slope before. I had not been in that part of the world before. I had no idea the intricacies of the supply chain in that county or that state. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense and helps to inform this next question. There is a very distinct difference between HyperCycle and how they communicate when you compare them to a lot of other Web3 products. I would love your take on that. I think it'll help inform the audience and the community, give them a little deeper insight to the way we do things and why we're doing them that way.
Sure. I think maybe one of the ways to think about this is in terms of how we fit into Web3, rather than specifically like being a blockchain company or a traditional crypto project rather. We're really a software technology company, and we strategically leverage cryptographic tools in order to build the technology that we're aiming to build. So it's rather than being, another crypto project, layered on top of others or integrating with others. It's more about, we have this idea of what we want to build, this network for AI to AI. What are the best tools and technologies to use in order to build that out? So insofar as we can leverage, existing crypto technologies and, blockchain to assist in that process, and if they fit in the right place in the sort of stage of development of the network and the technology, or a particular tool to solve a particular problem, then we will absolutely leverage that. So we're avoiding the sort of traditional, typical crypto terminology and, say, anti-centralization language and speculative narratives, because that's not really our approach. Like, we're building a technology to link everything to everything in some sense. Like, so that includes centralized companies as well as decentralized networks. AI is going to be utilized everywhere, as we'll see more and more in the coming years.
Yes.
And we believe we do better by providing a network that links everybody, and rather than excluding according to particular capabilities. So the idea is, like, the internet is an open technology that links anyone to anyone, right? And so it's a similar idea here. It's like an open internet for AI to communicate with AI without barriers and without needing to know each other. So there's other layers to that I could talk about, I guess. So, like,
well, let me throw in a question here that might be narrow that field a little bit. Sure. Has there been a significant achievement over the last year, right, that is now framing a direction for us this year?
I mean, I guess in terms of how I would answer that question, it's more refocuses from that broader story about the end goal of the technology we're building, and more into the developmental history over the last year or two. And one of the big things for us in that time was the development of the HTS service, which we launched last November. And this is really, it's not HyperCycle, it's an HTS product, but it helps to highlight something important about our focus and what we're bringing into being, because it was the first time we really integrated the blockchain-based licensing. That's one of the things I was going to talk about. How we do leverage crypto is like current traditional ledger-based blockchains is for providing an interface for people to access our licensing structure, and to payment networks for people to purchase those and own them. So that's a way for that we see as a great use case from the point of view of what we're building. So we're integrating that aspect. So these are the node factories that all of our community are very well familiar with. So integrating, the licensing from the blockchain, payments, Merkleizer validation, as well as HyperCycle node server infrastructure that's actually enabling these licenses to be tilled on the network. So all those things have to work together. And before that point, these were all pieces that we had built, and some of them are talking to each other, but all as an entire sort of interacting integrated system, and one that we made sort of accessible for users to use. It was an ambitious project for us, but it was a significant sort of bringing to life of all these different pieces. And it's a great example of the partnership that HyperCycle has with HyperPG, because HyperPG is actually bringing this service into being and helps to sort of prove out capabilities of the HyperCycle system.
No, and also a really good example of what you opened this conversation with, and that is understanding a direction we're going to go, but not exactly the thing that is going to be in April, and then the thing that's going to be in June, and the thing that's going to be in September. Case in point, I can distinctly go back and read in our white paper, you will find no mention of HTS.
Yeah,
It's
indeed.
not there. It does not exist. And the
No.
point, and so I think this really, your answers are really starting to, for me anyway, formulate a context in which I can now go back and like measure against my experience with HyperCycle and go, oh, okay, when this occurred, when this was happening, I did not understand this, and I had these thoughts and feelings around what was happening. But with this new context, I can like put this new lens on, look through it, and not only understand why things had been done the way they have been done, but also apply that to how things are rolling out for us as we are rolling them out. So no, thank you very much. I want to get a little specific, because with this HTS that came from HyperPG, obviously it was not the finished product, right? It was not the end all be all. What I'd like to ask you is, how is the experience with HTS informed HMS?
Well, so, as anyone who used HTS would know, especially early on in the process, it had its challenges. There were a lot of complex interactions. There were issues, and people got understandably frustrated with the process. So it was a discovery process for us, offering a service like this. And one of the things we discovered, we learned a lot from that process, and our development team and support team have done a phenomenal job of addressing the various issues, improving the service. But we learned really essentially that how best to meet the needs of users from all of the feedback we received. And one of the major themes really was a desire, and this makes sense from a business perspective, a really simplified user interface, so that the user is exposed really to what's crucial to them, but not getting involved in aspects like deeper aspects of the system that they may not, like, maybe make sense from a developer's perspective, like they would want to have access to. But your typical user in our community doesn't really need to have that access. So how can we redesign the system to better meet the needs of the community, while also leading to a more robust and reliable infrastructure on the back end side? So that's one of the ways that HTS has informed the shift that we're moving into HMS. And
Excellent.
another, I guess, just quickly, is from the point of view of the business model, as that sort of evolved in our understanding of how the arrangements for node factories can work. We realized that there's an opportunity here for the owners of node factories to benefit from making their licenses available to people and not actually need to pay for it. So the whole sort of market presentation can change in a way that makes good business sense, and is a win-win outcome for everybody.
Well, let me ask you this: can you tell me more about Node Manager? Because it sounds like a lot of these lessons that we learned and what we maybe had as a direction we wanted to go is culminated into this Node Manager, right? This elegant piece of technology. Can you elaborate some more on that? Because this is like a natural segue right into that.
Well, so maybe just to sort of clear what you're asking about, because the Node Manager is what we refer to one of the core pieces of the HyperCycle node software. Mm-hmm. But the aspect that's more germane, I think, to HTS and HMS is a feature we added that's more actually on the node factory side, which is what we call a manager mode. So is it? I think it's probably more the latter that you're thinking of.
Yes, manager mode, absolutely.
Yeah. So the node manager is involved in this because node manager needs to talk this language. So I can get into that technical detail if you're interested. But the key piece for improving, so part of this simplifying the interface for the user and making design choices that are more optimal from a economic standpoint. We recognized that we could set up the process for activating tilling, which is what HTS does, in a actually way that is more flexible, more broad, but also that once it's set up doesn't require any additional blockchain interaction.
Okay.
So because right now with HTS, every time you set up a tiller, you have to go through a whole process of setting a message for your node factory and all that, as anyone who's gone through it is familiar with. What manager mode enables you to do is essentially you do that once, and you're assigning the ability to control from that on to a third party wallet. So this is a HyperCycle capability that we've added.
Yeah.
But HyperPG is able to leverage this for HMS to allow them to be in the driver's seat, really, to take over management of all of the licenses that are available in your node factory. So that includes not just the ones that you paid for when you bought the license bundle, but also all the ones that are unlocked over time, including nodes that are unlocked, can all be managed without any additional blockchain interaction. So it's a really nice feature from that point of view. Oh, yeah.
So real quick. So I have a level 12 node factory ready to go. I'm connecting it. Manager mode, allowing HyperPG to come in and do their thing. You're basically telling me that the 1024 times 4 nodes are available even prior to unlocking, or just four level 10s.
So yeah, so for level 12, you have 4 level 10 licenses.
Right.
So those are ready out of the box. So one of the differences here is, like, from an HTS perspective, you would only be able to till that level 12 license, right?
Right,
The root license. And from an uptime perspective, that's fine because the uptime is distributing across the level 10s. But as soon as you factor in the ability to do computation and the reputation eventually comes in, then that can accelerate things. So with manager mode, rather than only being able to register on the network that level 12, you could actually access all of the level 10s right away.
With today, like in the day of, wow.
Exactly.
Okay, I
but
like it.
As additional licenses are unlocked, without doing anything on the blockchain, it's the Merkleizer who tells you essentially that those are now valid, those additional unlocked and the node licenses that you produced. Manager mode allows you then to initiate operation of those without any additional blockchain interaction.
This adds a level of complexity that scares me, but it also entices me at the same time. So I need to go back to school and try to understand this. But if I'm having HyperPG manage them for me, I don't need to become an expert at it. It's not something that's going to be necessarily important for me, probably just for my own edification, not necessarily. I'm not going to be in there with the wrench directing those aims at whatever they're going to be directed at. Okay, cool. Fair enough. Let's stick with HyperPG a little bit, because there's this interplay here that we're unraveling as we're talking about manager mode and things of that nature. How is HyperPG built HMS? That's a question, and I want to make sure I get it asked right here with you while I have you.
Sure. No, that's good. I was just leading into talking about this anyway, so it works out. So because the manager mode piece that I've been talking about is really key for unlocking the capability of what HMS will be able to do. Because what you really want for HMS is the ability for a third-party manager to be able to activate instances of the HyperCycle software that are revenue generating in one manner or another, and then being able to share that revenue with you as the node owner, right? And as well as whoever the operators are, any software providers, so that distribution will happen, but the allocation that goes to the node owner then comes back to you, with them taking a small service fee for their trouble. So it really is manager mode that unlocks that capability, because they don't need to go to you as the owner and ask your permission every time they want to activate a new instance of the HyperCycle software using one of your licenses. Putting them in the driver's seat enables them to have the ability to access all of the licenses that are currently available in your node factory, and then make choices to best utilize those. And eventually, they'll have ways for you to sort of express some of your preferences about how you would like those nodes to be used. So you're playing a role in shaping, how things evolve and develop. That feedback will be important. But it's really only the capabilities or sort of this decision-making capacity that really needs to involve you that will be, presented to you as the node owner, and the rest of it is at the discretion of HMS.
Interesting. So let's close this particular vertical with real quickly, because this isn't one of these questions that come up. What is the difference between the HTS and HMS?
Yeah. So HTS, as I mentioned briefly, is really just restricted to uptime tilling.
Okay.
And because uptime tilling distributes in the way that I mentioned, it worked to just only be able to activate a single instance with the root license of a node factory. Whereas here, because we're getting into actually getting, node factories and nodes that are revenue generating, we need to be able to access lower levels in that tree of licenses. So again, that's what manager mode allows you to do. And so one of the differences as well is aside from the revenue sharing aspect, which is obviously, a core element, the fact that, of course, and what everyone has been looking for, and we're excited to be able to start providing. The other aspect is that as node factories and nodes get utilization, which will be gradual. It won't happen right away. Everyone's licenses won't all get used at the same time. They'll all be tilling for uptime, but the compute will, grow over time. But as that happens, it accelerates the pace for unlocking for those node factories.
Oh yeah.
So it provides an additional benefit that comes from that, and that you'll see that again, sort of as a gradual thing that increases in keeping with the revenue generating capacity of the network that HMS is building.
Excellent. Let's diverge a little. Let's broaden this conversation a bit. Something that's near and dear to my heart, but I'm sure many others in the community, is something like this. What is needed to develop that AI compute commerce marketplace, right? The commercial marketplace for AI on our network. What is needed to build that bad boy out? Do you have any insights to that?
Well, I guess there's kind of like layers to it.
Okay.
So it requires the solid technical foundation that HyperCycle is providing. So the robust, secure infrastructure, which will includes the HyperCycle node software, which is what the node factory licenses are licensing, as well as the sort of communications infrastructure and sort of APIs that the network will use. Eventually, software development kits to allow developers easier access to building on different levels of the software stack, reputation systems that ensure fairness of transactions and responsible behavior on the network, flexible payment systems, streamlined license management, and so on. All these things, like that's the sort of foundation that HyperCycle provides. But we also need participation from node owners, from developers, hardware providers, software creators, and the end users of the services, whether they be humans or AI. So that kind of feedback is really important. The more participation we get from people who want to set up businesses here and get access to sort of building, which is something that we're in the process of growing out. All of these things contribute to building up this AI compute e-commerce marketplace. But really, one of the things I was going to say about HMS that's important to emphasize here is that what we realized is, you can make all the tools and you could show someone the door, but it's up to them to walk through it. And so we built the tools, but no one had walked through the door. So we realized that, okay, we need to work with HyperPG to build a functioning example of this marketplace, to show its viability, to show its business viability, and really sort of seed the capabilities of the marketplace and provided sort of conditions to grow, to germinate and grow and sprout, and then the more that's there, the easier it is to add more things into it. But we need that starting place.
Got it.
And we don't want HMS to be the only game in town. It's really meant to be an example for others to see that this business model can work, this marketplace can work, and then they start providing and becoming competition for HMS. And the more the merrier, because it's a beneficial evolution when we have lots and lots of people that are meeting, finding different product market fit niches. It's a global market space that we're working with here, and this is really just the beginning of something that we hope and intend to become very, very big.
Well, I had a question and I wrote this down. I'll just read you the question, but I'm going to replace it with a different question. This is the question was, how will others use HyperCycle tools to expand the marketplace? But you know what? I'm going to replace that. I have a 2-word question. When SDK?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, so as I've explained, there's a complex technology stack to HyperCycle, and the services, the customer or user-facing services that we have built and are building are helping to, provide important feedback mechanisms to refine, various aspects of the stack. And one of the initiatives that's gone alongside that is, actively working on improving internal documentation and guides for partners that we're bringing in, which is refining the onboarding processes for them, and working towards providing standardized SDKs to support smoother developer experiences. And so that's work that's ongoing, and it's leading into getting more developers involved, which is partly will happen through the education program, but also later in probably in Q4 this year, we'll start hosting hackathons or sponsoring hackathons that provide other opportunities for developers to experiment and innovate with building apps on top of the network and creating new marketplace opportunities.
I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to that. I know I've spoken with probably 12 different people who, in their own ways, come to that same thing. When SDKs, when hackathons, when can we get the tool set to bring the idea that we have to the HyperCycle network. We've been following HyperCycle. We're interested in HyperCycle. Matter of fact, I've had the good fortune of probably introducing to Dan Tolliver at least 5 of those entities, right? Who are kind of, they're doing their thing, they're building their thing, but they realize the value proposition in kind of joining the Internet of AI, right? That being ubiquitous throughout the world, being available to the world at any moment. So I do have another question, Robert, and it's not meant to be negative. It's really more inquisitive, and that is, are we at a risk of moving too slowly in what is a fast-paced industry?
Yeah, so I understand. I mean, this kind of questions come up before. I understand the concerns that people have. I think the way I want to answer this right now is, so like up to this point, we've paced our development really responding to the needs of the active community that we have right now, building user-facing products and capabilities, and working on refining the deeper node level software to ensure that it's robust, adaptable, and ready for future growth. And one of the advantages of the node architecture is its modular design approach makes it really flexible in terms of what kinds of software services can be offered there, how they can function. Working with independent nodes facilitates horizontal scaling, but also the ability to run on different hardware allows scalability on the compute side. So there's a lot of flexibility built into the software itself, and that's one of the advantages of the architecture is the ability in that to be able to adapt to market needs and market demands, because the product itself is really sort of elastic. But we're nevertheless in this position where we need to sort of seed this multi-sided marketplace and get that going. But the idea is, kind of like the way compound interest works. You're putting money in, you're putting money in, you're putting money in. It's growing slowly. You don't really see a big, growth, but eventually it is growing exponentially. It's just on the very sort of gradual part of the exponential growth curve. And then eventually you reach a point where it starts to take off. And that's maybe a model to have in mind of what we're aiming for is gradual improvement, percentage improvement with each iteration to get to the point where once this reaches the marketplace reaches a critical mass, it starts to sort of self-feed growth processes and really demonstrates to the market, the broader market, the viability of what we're doing. Sure. So the more all of us can kind of work together to get this whole thing started and to make it happen, and with what you're asking about with the SDK and related to hackathons, we are building towards being able to reach out to meet developers where they are to help them to get involved. The more everyone contributes in their own way, that they like ideas and actually building businesses, the faster we can get to that point where this thing really comes to life. So yeah, I think that's the kind of picture I think that we can have in mind at this point.
Excellent. We've talked a lot about basically the supply side of the equation. And everybody knows that in a marketplace, it's supply and demand. So I wanted to shift gears just for a second. Look at the demand side, right? I'm a builder, I'm a developer. Should I get a node factory or an ant fee? How could each of these benefit me? Being on that side, being on the side of I'm the demand customer. I'd really love your take on that, because like I said, we talk so much about the owner of the node side of the equation, not the person that might benefit from being on the other end of that economic environment.
Sure. So this question can be answered different ways. So just from the point of view of like, is it necessary? No, it's not necessary for a builder or developer to purchase a node factory in order to participate. There will be ways to access the licenses in existing node factories from node factory owners on Ethereum and the Amphi owners on Base through HMS will enable access to developers who want to actually operate a node and run their own software and build using the sort of full stack HyperCycle stack. They'll be able to do that without any upfront licensing costs. And related to that is the upcoming education program. So particularly the kind of 8-minute version, which is where we're starting with that. It'll provide opportunities for community members, including developers, to run nodes without purchasing licenses. So reducing that barrier to entry. And initially, the offering will be geared more towards non-technical people to be able to run a node and see some benefit from that. But not too long thereafter, we'll be able to onboard developers in that way to sort of put them in the position to really actually run their own software essentially on a node in that way. On the other hand, so that said, for developers who are able to and are motivated to invest in owning a node factory or an Amphi, there will be strategic advantages that provides on the economic side, because then they're capturing all of the wealth essentially that is being generated by the software that's running on the nodes that they're running, because they instead of having to do revenue share with a node owner, they keep that revenue for themselves. So yeah, so there's flexibility and possibilities in that arena.
Well, I just got an inspiration. This is totally off script, but I'm going for it right now. If you are a developer and you're interested in developing with HyperCycle, I want you to reach out to us on X at HyperCycle_AI and just simply create a post. Hey, Jerry, I'll get in touch with you, and one random developer will be gifted an Amphi out of my promotional marketing budget. We'd love to get as many of you following us and interacting with us as possible. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Robert, I want to ask you, is there still room in our closed alpha for any development entrance? Like, is there any room left to get in? And if so, maybe I can tie that into the promotion that I just created on this program.
Yeah, so, potentially for sure. Okay. Just maybe a bit of a comment about that is like the way the closed alpha program has gone. The focus has been more on because we have a limited budget in terms of developer time and personnel. We've focused more on building partnerships with other companies who want to build, as opposed to working directly with community members. So there's limited availability for direct community participation in the closed alpha program, but we would like to do that. We want to make that possible for people. So I think what we want to do is more sort of targeted experiments with probably just one to start with, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But that can help with the process of refining these onboarding experiences for developers. The more diverse developer onboarding experiences that we have, the better that helps to refine these processes, but also makes it possible for community members to do exactly what I was saying before, and sharing their ideas and actually building with a full stack of technology. So we would love to do that, and we have a limited capacity to do that. So I think that does fit in with your Amphi promotion.
I think we're doing it.
No.
if you're out there and you're listening to this and this absolutely intrigues you, you have a small development company or you've got your own business you started, maybe it's a huge business, maybe the CEO of IBM is watching right now. It does not matter. You simply just contact us on our X channel at HyperCycle_AI and just put, hey Jerry, I'm interested. And I'll get all of your usernames and stuff. I'll reach out to you and we'll figure out who we can get. If there's, somebody, a candidate that comes to life out of that little experiment, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then the other thing is in this, on this topic is the education program that I mentioned, like particularly like the 8-minute videos to start. Yeah. I think that'll evolve more into a more standard way of developer onboarding.
Okay.
So as that becomes available, it will be a sort of smoother process, more limited in terms of what we can guide people towards to start with, but it'll expand. So if people don't get into the closed alpha program that we've been discussing, it won't be too long before that becomes available to people to allow them to start actually building on HyperCycle.
Excellent. Well, Robert, I want to thank you for your time today. This was very insightful. I want to most of all thank all of you who've tuned in and taken time out of your life to get a little more educated, get a little deeper insight to what we're doing here at HyperCycle. We very much appreciate you on the journey with us. And until next time, from Costa Rica and wherever Robert may be, Pura Vida.
Thanks, everyone. It's great to have you.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. To learn more about HyperCycle, visit HyperCycle.ai. And discover more about HyperPG, just visit HyperPG.net. Ciao.